4, 3, 2.
This is kind of unusual for you, isn't it, to be doing a tour like this for a new album?
Very unusual. Very unusual.
So why are you doing it?
I've never done it before.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to see how it went. I mean, it's an intriguing prospect, but it's I think it's nice to do because I love the record, and I really would like as many people to hear it as possible.
Is this album a statement or more of a signature album for you?
I think it's the first thing I've done in many years that sort of touches on so many different places in my musical life.
How do you mean?
Well, the last time I did anything like this was when I did 461 Ocean Boulevard, and I did a mixture of songs, a mixture of cover versions that I've always loved. And this is the first time since then, in a way, that I've done anything that positive, you know?
Mm-hmm. Now, that album that you referred to is, was your solo breakthrough. Are you comfortable with your singing?
As comfortable as I can be, yeah. I mean, I could be better, but it's something I constantly have to work on.
Uh-huh. Why do you call this Journeyman? I mean, surely at this point in your career you don't consider yourself a journeyman.
I think if I keep myself under control by thinking that way, I tend to have a better attitude towards being a musician in general, you know?
Mm-hmm. But still, you've influenced so many people. It almost seems as if you're selling yourself short by saying journeyman.
Well, that doesn't matter because it was never really my intention to influence people anyway. I mean, if I ever wanted to influence people in any way, it was to point out to them what influenced me, you know, that is to say the blues or the people that made the records that I loved. That's all I ever wanted to achieve in terms of influence. It was to open people's eyes to what had gone before. But in question of just being a journeyman, that's really how I see myself, just getting on with it, you know.
Mm-hmm. So many artists have said over the years that you were their biggest influence. You know, like it or not, you've definitely affected so many careers and are probably responsible for a number of people even being in the music industry. What about you? Who are your influences? Who are your heroes?
My heroes, thank God, are still alive today. B.B. King and Buddy Guy, Robert Cray are the musicians. Unfortunately, a lot of them are dead, you know, like Jimi Hendrix and Freddie King. People like that were all very important to my musical upbringing. But it's great that, you know, the chief among them, B.B. King, is still going strong.
Mm-hmm. Ray Charles, I understand, is one of your heroes, and you do a song of his on the album.
That's right, yeah. I've always loved that song, and I like the particular era that came from in terms of R&B. It was a time when Ray Charles was doing a lot of blues and with a lovely little kind of combo. Yeah, he's one of my great influences too.
Another cover version on this album, which I know you're going to have a lot of comment on, is your version of Hound Dog.
I didn't think it would cause that much fuss, but it is. I mean, you're right, and I think it's because it's such a well-known song. I mean, Elvis's first big hit, and what we did though, we did the Big Mama Thornton version,
mm-hmm.
which is, I guess, what he heard, and so we did it the way she did it, as much as possible, to make it different.
Mm-hmm. What reaches you first, lyrics or melody?
When I'm writing?
Well, when you're writing and when you're playing.
I think when I'm writing it, they usually come at the same time. It usually will be a lyrical idea that I'll get, and then I'll just expand on it, and I'll start to put chords and things like that to it.
Are you a blues guitarist, or do you think of yourself more as a rock guitarist?
I'm a blues guitar player.
Uh-huh.
Simple. I mean, I just put it in different framework. Change the setting around a bit.
You've done a video also for this album. What's it like standing there performing in a downpour?
It's something I wouldn't want to do again. I enjoyed it though.
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed it, yeah, but we had to wear wetsuits, you know.
Really?
Oh yeah, because it was created rain. It was very, very heavy pressure.
And I hope your instruments are not plugged in.
Well, you know what? No, I don't think you can get a shock anyway these days, but you've got to be careful. But I was amazed that my guitar survived so well.
Didn't warp up.
It didn't warp, no.
After all these years of playing and performing in front of audiences, when you're out there on stage and you hear the fans screaming and listening to what you're doing, what kind of a feeling is that for you?
I think it's the biggest high in the world. It's something you can't buy in a drugstore. You can't simulate it. It's the most natural and good feeling of stimulation that I've ever experienced.
Are you happiest on stage?
I think so. I think that's where I belong, you know.
Mm-hmm. Will you be touring in 1990?
Yeah, I'm touring the whole year.
Tell us about it. I understand you're doing something that you've never done before with symphony orchestras.
Yeah, I start at the Royal Albert Hall in London in January, and I do 18 shows there, some of which will be with a symphony orchestra performing a guitar concerto. That's brand new for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you apprehensive about it or just purely excited?
Everything. I mean, I'm very nervous about it because it requires me learning the whole thing by ear, because I can't read music, so it's going to be a real test of my memory. And of course, I've never stood up, well, I've only tried it once, but to stand up there with all those strings and not have your normal rhythm section, to have a different level of sound and everything, it's going to be quite difficult, but I enjoy the challenge.
Does it surprise you, Eric, that after all these years, you're still as popular as you always have been?
It does, yeah. I think I'm very lucky to be around at this particular time, because there has been, as so many people have said, there's been a big rebirth of 60s music and a kind of tipping of the hat to the people that were around in those days. And thank God I made it, survived, and I'm still here because I was just there, you know, around at the time, and I guess I'm reaping the benefit now.
Mm-hmm. You've had some downs in your career. What kept you going through it all?
My love of my craft, my love of music, and I guess I just don't give up, you know.
When you stopped drinking, did it change anything about the way you do your music?
Yeah, I can play in tune now. Yeah, I think I started to become aware of how behind I was getting on everything. When you're drunk, you know, you just tend to assume that everything's all right when in fact it isn't. And to play sober requires a lot more concerted effort to stay on top of your form.
Mm-hmm. Do you like where music is today?
Yes, I do. I do. I think it's in great shape. I think it's great that all these different kinds of music and people from different generations are all surviving and existing in the same place.
You've also moved into the field of movie scoring. Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I love movies. I'm a great movie buff. I've always been a movie buff, and I've always wanted to actually be involved in the process of making films, and to actually reflect something that's happening up on screen with something you hear in your head is unbelievably rewarding.
When you work, do you get to see the movie first, or are you writing from clips, or how do you work?
I have to see something. I mean, generally I will see a reel or two of footage and then just kind of get the atmosphere, because that's what it is to me. It's I don't particularly care to too much spotted music. That is to say, when the music reflects a line of dialogue. I like to work to a very low-key background atmosphere, you know.
Uh-huh. Getting back to your current album, Journeyman, when you get through with an album in the studio, can you be fully satisfied, or do you always listen to it and think, boy, I could have done that a little better?
I think you can always do it better, and I think that's a great thing in life, that, you know, 6 months down the road, you've probably got a better version of the one that you put down in the studio, but you can't turn back the clock, so that's the way it goes. I mean, I've always found that to make a record and then take it out on the road, at the end of a year of playing different songs, they have evolved into something else, which may be better, may not be, but there's nothing you can do about that.
How do you like this album when you play it?
How do I like it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I loved it as I was making it. I love it now, and I don't think I'm going to go off it for quite a while. Yeah.
Think it'll end up being one of, or perhaps your all-time favorite?
I think so, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for talking with me this morning.
Thank you, Kip.
Love the album.
Thanks a lot.